Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on today's virtual panel for Comic-Con 2020. It's kind of a wild new normal for all of us, but we're psyched to have you joining and thrilled that you're tuning in. We've got a number of years running at Comic-Con, and we've got some really awesome stuff to show you from our previous work over the last year or so, as well as a whole lot of original IP that we've been developing here at Aaron Sims Creative as we continue to venture deeper into film, television, augmented reality, virtual reality, and gaming. So without further ado, I want to introduce the team. My name is Chase. I'm the marketing director here at Aaron Sims Creative. We've got Tyler Winther, our director of development, who has been spearheading a lot of our, again, concept development and original IP. We've got some exciting stuff that we'll be speaking to a little bit later in the panel. Stefan Reichstadt, our art director, who's been with the company for over 10 years now, and one of our lead concept designers. And then, of course, our founder and lead concept designer and famed Aaron Sims. So once again, we're psyched to have you with us. For those of you who know a little bit about us, have seen this previous panel, we are a concept design and visual effects studio. We pride ourselves on a pretty comprehensive approach to world building and character design, everything from concept design all the way through final VFX, which is what we like to call sketch to screen. So we're going to walk you through a few of those projects today. Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our latest showreel with some of our recent work. Here we go. So that was a glimpse at some of our latest work. As you can see here, just a small collection of some of the films, TV, gaming projects we've done over the years. A whole lot more that can't really fit on one page. But of course, go ahead and check us out on our website, www.aaronsimscreative.com, or on social media. Once again, we're psyched to be able to work on such fantastic projects. We've got a lot more coming out later this year, which we'll show you a little bit later. Well, we'll tease to a little bit later. We wish we could show you already. But obviously, as you can imagine, due to, theatrical and releases still in flux, some of these big tentpole features such as Wonder Woman 84, and a few others are a little bit delayed, but we've been working on it for quite some time. So moving forward, one of the first projects that we did a little bit last year, Birds of Prey. This is something that we did quite a bit of, we did a bit of concept design for, as well as some quite a bit of intensive replacements of backgrounds, of landscapes, and also kind of some character work that the team can speak to here?
Yeah, this was an interesting project because I think it was the first time that Gotham was shot in LA. So there were all of these like obviously very LA landmarks and scenes that were in the film that then had to be replaced to make it feel more like Gotham. And Birds of Prey wanted a different feel altogether, but it still wanted that connection to the universe, so that it wasn't completely different. This is just a selection of a couple of the frames that we painted on top of to help the visual effects team get their heads around what it wanted to be in the end, and what kind of matte paintings that they wanted to push in the end. So these were all of the finished plates, but all of them were fairly different, fairly extensive. Some were replacing more than half of the frame to get it closer to that kind of Gotham-y feel. On the next frame, you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where we show the before, where there really is nothing there, downtown LA, and then we had to build up the entire background, even to the point where we're putting in trains and removing whole sections of things that aren't supposed to be there. But that's just one of them. On the next one, there was this whole sequence where Harley Quinn was supposed to be running down the pier to get to what is effectively an inlet, out to the ocean, and there was just nothing there. This was shot, somewhere inland in LA, in like the warehouse district. So you can see all those green screen panels there. The trick was, how do you get this place that looks nothing like Gotham and looks nothing like that, that set extension? How do you draw that out and pull the mood in? And so a lot of this was just replacement, and then adding in all this kind of cool atmospheric fog to help the visual effects team kind of know what they needed to do in front of them. On the next slide, this one was an interesting one. Same kind of area, just a few piers down. This was the hideout for all of the girls in the film, and initially, same thing. There was just a backlot somewhere in the warehouse district in downtown LA where they had set up a bunch of green screens, and there wasn't really much there. There was this main building for the hideout, but then everything else around it was all landlocked and separated out, so that there wasn't all of this detail. All of the rides, all of the pier stuff in the background, the ocean, all of that was missing from the original plates, and they needed to reimagine what that might look like. And then on the next one, and the last and final one, so a lot of their interiors were just shot on green screen. So they kind of shot it and said, okay, well, we'll kind of figure out where this is supposed to be afterwards, and then kind of redo some of the lighting to match. But that kind of stuff was done all over the film to give it a little bit more of that kind of gritty Gotham feel. So yeah, that's Birds of Prey.
So
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Stefan's point there too, like this process, what we do a lot at ASC is basically not only like the final VFX, but we through the process of helping other VFX companies, see and in the entire company, the entire production, understand what the final result's going to be. And this is a process. This falls into our sketch to screen process, but this is something that we do throughout, from the very beginning of a project all the way throughout, and it's to get it to so that everybody's on the same page before spending too much money in the visual effects after the fact.
Right. So sometimes we'll work ahead of time. For instance, we also designed, helped design the mask for Black Mask, and And that's more in the pre side, but in this occasion, sometimes they need design help through the process, and the idea is to try to visualize it here while it's cheap and fast, and then as opposed to getting into visual effects and saying, well, we're not really sure what's supposed to be back there. How do you make this one street scene feel like it's in the middle of downtown when there's really nothing around it?
Yeah. So without spending too much time or money building an entire 3D city, then this is the most effective way of getting an idea across to everybody.
And Stefan, you mentioned speaking of the designing the mask for the villain character. Can you speak to, was that something that was done again prep in the initial concept design, or was that something that had to be kind of tackled as an adjustment a little bit later in the process?
Yeah, they had something. Production had something that they were liking for the film shoot, and then once they actually started seeing it in the dailies, they realized that it may not work because it was kind of covering up a lot of the performance of Ewan McGregor. So during this process as well, we were also helping to redesign the mask later on in post because they really wanted to get the most out of that character, and I think it worked in the end. It was a really cool process in the end. So
yeah, which speaks to, I think, what a lot of what the team tackles. It's not always an ideal scenario to fix it and prep and design ahead of time, but what can be done later in the process and sometimes after the movie's already shot to reimagine an element. For those who have seen some of our presentations before, we've shown completely wiping out entire scenes of a show, of a film, and completely redesigning it after the fact. So going in and triage, if you will, I think is part of the scope sometimes.
Indeed.
Going forward to Call of the Wild. This was, again, one that I know the team was working on early and often in terms of designing, the different kind of dog characters and key scenes for the world. Share with us a little bit about how that design approach, the collaboration with the director, and how this came to be. I think it was before the film was even fully greenlit, if I recall. Is that correct?
Yeah, here I'll start with this. So yeah, basically we do this quite a bit. We get brought on very early while the script is being written, and this is Buck. This is the design that we created, and this is after probably hundreds of different combination of dogs. There was in the script, I guess, or in the story originally, I think it was based on a Saint Bernard and a mountain. What was the dog?
Bernese.
Bernese, yes, Bernese. It was kind of so that's kind of where we kind of cross-pollinated those two breeds together and created our own version, plus, giving it some other characteristics. And this is a lot of fun because we're trying to make it as, realistic as possible, but iconic with some of the markings on the face. And so we went through working with Chris, the director, for quite some time just to come up with the look of Buck. And sometimes our process is completely 3D. Sometimes it's a combination of photos and painting. And this is just a little bit of our process, throughout the design is starting, with a character first, and then we start to populate that into the key scenes that you'll see in the next slide. Yeah, so some of these key scenes represent aspects and parts of the story that were, just to show kind of like the town, what the town looked like, where they were going to shoot. We had to kind of create a look for that. Kind of the dog sleds, with, having to climb uphill, and the Buck's the kind of the strong one out of all of them. So it's showcasing the character and a key scene, a complete moment in the story. So we look at, while we're working with the director, if the script is there, then we work with him on that. A lot of this was creating while the script was being written. So working closely with him. And then at the top, the one with the black wolf, this giant black wolf behind that person at the campfire, this was more of the character's kind of motivation. Buck's motivation is that this character was the thing that was helping him push through his insecurities. So it was an interesting thing to design, because it was something that was not real. It wasn't a real character. It was all in the dog's imagination, which is kind of cool thing to figure out. And like in this image, most of the time you see it, it's kind of in silhouette or just the eyes.
And actually the two environmental scenes there, the top left and the bottom left, is actually the kind of the same thing as the Birds of Prey stuff. There was an actual set location that didn't look quite anything like that. And it's just Google Maps images really, and set photography. And then we had to go in and paint on top of it, set dress it, make it winter and have snowfall, and then kind of bring it to life by adding characters and kind of reimagining the world.
So Mouse Guard was a cool project. We showed this last year a little bit. Some of these, there's some new stuff that we didn't show last year. But this is an unfortunate project that we deal with a lot as designers and creators in the film industry, is that we spend a lot of time creating a world and characters for a movie that eventually doesn't get made. So a lot of you probably heard about Mouse Guard, but some of these images may be new to you, but they're just, we wanted to show some highlights of some of the cool work that hopefully maybe one day becomes a movie.
Yeah, we're still crossing our fingers that the director Wes Ball can pull some kind of voodoo magic and get it made, because I always like to say that it's the best film that never happened. We really love it. It was near and dear to our hearts. We worked on it for some time, and the characters and the environments were just so unique and so special. To watch these elements come together was really a cool thing to work on.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun project. And Wes Ball, the director, is such a collaborator in the design process with us. He comes from a visual effects background, so he understands what he needed to achieve, which makes it for us a lot easier too to explain certain things or create things, because he can visualize knowing what it has to be based on his background.
And the whole world, he to Wes's credit, he really thought about all the odds and ends. These last couple of images were just about like the transportation systems, even like in the world of medieval mice. How do they get around? So their large transportation is on the backs of turtles that they've built little homes into, and here are the kind of knights on horseback. But riding sparrows instead. There was really some really interesting and unique elements to the story, and all kind of hidden into some of the details of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to see some of these kind of little miniaturized, photoreal creatures. I know one of the techniques that you all use in terms of photo bashing for concept design. Was it any of that in play here, or were these done purely just kind of as an original sort of design piece?
A lot of these were, like this particular one, these characters were designed in 3D, and then that way we could actually repurpose them, pose them, and use them in key scenes in different ways. So it's kind of a combination of different mediums all slammed together, 3D and 2D and photo bashing and paint. So it's something we do quite a bit of. This is one of the environments that the film had many different environments, this is just one kind of cool area that we did many different designs for this, and this is all full paint. Then eventually we get into other scenes and stuff that we actually start to build out more in 3D.
And this is an interesting thing, because the movie, the basic story is basically a traveling film of going from taking our characters from set location to set piece to set piece. This one was an interesting one as well, because it's this entire city that exists, within the base of a tree, something that, the whole world exists within a few feet, given our scale, human scale, but it's a whole city for them. And, there were some really great environments that we did that we can't show, unfortunately, but that were kind of crisscrossing a network through the inside of this tree, and kind of creating these smaller moments with lots of really interesting depth. It was a really cool thing to see and be a part of.
Yeah, the one thing that Wes was really trying to do with this too, and you can see it in this, is play with, even though it's a miniature world and everything around it was obviously, the tree trunks and everything else that you're seeing, but it felt like we play with the scale as far as atmosphere to create like that it's a bigger world, even though we're tiny, which again makes it extremely cinematic and enjoyable to watch, and doesn't feel like you're just in this micro world. It feels like it's a gigantic world that you're in.
Right, and even in this image, there's cheats to make it still feel more epic and kind of play with the scale. For instance, the fire and the reflections of the water. If this was accurate scale to this size, it would look completely different. Those would look like matchsticks as opposed to torches. The ripples on the water would be much larger, and you would kind of lose some of the sense of magic. And so that was something that Wes very cleverly called out very early on and helped guide us through as we were making some of the art.
That's great. One of the questions I know we get a lot is when we're looking at pieces of key art like this, which clearly are just very immersive glimpses into key moments of the story, how do you choose? Is it from the director? Is it the team? How do you choose which moments to convey and how to convey them in a concept form like this? And I know obviously there's some influence taken from the book, but how much is informed by the script versus how much is blue sky, you working with the director to kind of visualize this scene?
A lot of it is blue sky at the beginning. The book was, obviously a starting place, and the script that was being written was being developed while we were designing. So it was kind of to help the writing. It was to help to imagine these moments that Wes Ball really wanted to showcase. So he'd basically give us a lot of like these moments to focus on a weekly basis. And I think it was almost a year we were on the project before it got canned.
Yeah, and the briefs would usually be like, a few sentences. Okay, so our main characters that we've developed, they're on the river, they're on this raft, and they get attacked by this snake. But it's a huge snake. Go draw that. So sometimes they're very detailed descriptions, and other times they can be pretty non-prescriptive. And the reason why is because Wes is a pretty good artist himself, and he kind of lets you explore within certain constraints, and that lets you sometimes come up with happy accidents. Sometimes you do things that nobody was expecting because you have this room to play.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, this is just another area. There's quite a few different worlds and places we explore in the movie. So we were just designing each one. This is a kind of a cross between 3D and paint. So it's kind of a different technique than the last one that was more all paint.
This one was an interesting one. There was that frame earlier of the mice on Turtleback. The idea with this area is that it was kind of like a depot where the turtles would come in, get loaded up with goods, and then lead out to the other side. And you can actually see, if you look close enough in the bottom left, you can kind of see a couple of turtles in there waiting to get loaded up with new goods. So it was like I said, all the odds and ends of the way that the universe functioned were thought out by Wes and the writing team. Really cool universe to come up with.
And he did quite a bit of this in Previs and Unreal. Is that correct? To kind of help map out and craft the story in the world.
Yeah. That was the Unreal has become a very powerful tool for creating previs and visualizing your film before you make it. So he embraced that quite a bit, and we since then have actually grown into an Unreal company that's our focus as well. And we're going to showcase some stuff up, coming up here in a bit to show you like that process.
Yeah, I think this project in particular really impressed upon us just how unavoidable Unreal is as a tool. It is obviously the future, because something that used to take lots and lots of time and lots of manpower as a standard previs, process, Wes was doing a lot of it himself. And it just shows that if you have a really cool creative vision, that Unreal is almost always the way to go. And very soon in the coming future, you'll see final visual effects being done in there. It already is a little bit, but I think very soon in the coming years, it'll be the norm.
Yeah, as we get closer to the uncanny valley. Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar, Unreal is a real-time game engine. You know, Unity is another one, but Unreal is obviously one that we've championed here at ASC. We're going to show you a little demo for one of our IP projects that Aaron has helped craft together, which is pretty sweet. The next thing we have to show, the team spoke about building out some of these 3D environments beyond just the sketch. And so what we've got here for you is a little bit of a walkthrough in the interior of their little hall, if you will, the different areas and components of it, which is pretty immersive.
Yeah, this was this was an interesting process because it was originally based on a piece of 2D flat art, and you know they were just having like the director was having questions about how he'd actually shoot in there. Like if he had a camera, what would he actually do in there?
Yeah, this was a kind of like a cantina scene where there's a bunch of characters playing and drinking and having a good time, but it had all these layers to it. So we did a bunch of illustrations early on of different areas that he really liked. So then we started taking that and building it in 3D so we could understand how we could actually get around this space and how could you shoot it. So it's kind of a good. This is this was done in Maya. I think since then we would be doing this all in Unreal and take it to another level.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like a lot of times you do a flat piece of concept art and you don't get the full picture. You don't really understand how this place would actually function in real life once it's fully built out. So we ended up smashing and bashing this together really quickly just to give Wes a better idea of how he would actually interact in the space, and so that he could set up his cinematography in a more realistic way, as if he was on set somewhere.
Yeah, fun stuff.
So hopefully by the time this panel that we're recording now premieres to you all, this will have been released and out into the world. But at this point in time we're recording, it is not yet. So it's future to us, to you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Russell.
And then this is kind of the same idea where it was, the film was shot, and then, as part of the editing process, they said, well, let's try and validate a couple of ideas in the edit before we spend a lot of time and money figuring them out. So there was a couple of, scenes where, Russell Crowe is being a general madman and going around and just causing havoc around the town. And these were a couple of different sequences. One where he rams a guy out into the road, and then because the other drivers in the road weren't expecting it, he kind of ricochets and bounces around a bunch of other cars. And another one, the bottom one, he kind of taps the back end of somebody on the highway, and they ricochet off the road and smash into one of the barriers and flip over. But the main one, there's one in the trailer that's worth talking about. And in this one, they had shot this kind of big car accident, and they had said, well, let's see if we can juice it up a little bit. So Russell Crowe is chasing after our heroes, our main characters. They're trying to wave down a cop, and to get in the middle of it, Russell Crowe slams his minivan into the cop car and spins him around. And in the next frame, you can kind of see, right, so in the top left, he spins him around, the cop car finally comes to a halt. He kind of sits there, he starts to get up on the radio, and then all of a sudden, bam, he gets smashed in by a semi-truck. And this wasn't in the original edit. This was something that they kind of added in post afterwards, after a reshoot, because they really wanted this moment to be impactful and to really sell like just how nasty the situation is getting with Russell Crowe being such a madman. And I think we actually even have a clip. Oh yeah, and this is him emerging from the scene of disaster,
Unscathed.
Unscathed, the Terminator on the hunt, coming after them. And I think we even got a little bit of a clip.
We do, yeah. It's pretty graphic and abrupt, so stay tuned. Yeah. think her face sums it up right.
Right. So metal.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, just to recap, that's sometimes that happens where they just need a little bit of help figuring out the edit, and it helps them do some reshoots and get what they want out of the film to make the ultimate version of their film.
Right. Cool. So that's just a little glimpse of some of the previous projects that we've worked on recently. And again, as we mentioned at the top, there's quite a few more that, again, originally slated for release this summer. Hopefully some still kind of stick around and get out there in the mix. But again, what's great about, ASC and the team is getting to work on these very early and often in the process. And so, it might be old news to us, but new news into the rest of the world. Can you guys speak a little bit about some of the work that we've done for some of these projects?
Yeah, well, one, if you look at the posters, and you can see from even our website, is what a variety of different type of projects we do work on. A lot of them are, high profile, but we have stuff from Candyman, which is complete horror, to Wonder Woman, to Space Jam, to Mulan. It's just the gamut and that's what makes our job really exciting, is that we're able to work on these different type of projects, so we're not working on the same, type all the time. I think that's part of the thrill as far as being a creative, and designers, is that we actually are able to work on these variety of different projects.
And unfortunately, we can't talk about them too much because we don't want to spoil anything in there. But a lot of these in here were really exciting to work on. I will say, as a super weeb anime fan, getting to work on the Cowboy Bebop reboot was dream come true. I can't wait to see what they end up doing with that once everybody kind of gets back from the COVID halt. And I think that's the reason why why it's so hard to talk about some of this stuff, because there's adjustments that have had to be made across the board with all of these films about how they're being released and the content within them because of COVID. So it's all just kind of the reality of the new world we live in.
Yeah. So just check out our website, and we'll have updates on all this stuff. And as the movies come out, we'll be able to release more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly. Stay tuned. Once it releases, we try and get you guys some glimpses of some of the work that we did in these films on social media at Aaron Sims Creative. We'll show you some links to that at the end. But shifting gears here, we told you at the top, we've been spending a lot of time and energy on developing original IP. Again, putting into play the same practices we deploy for all these films and games and series, but for ideas that were kind of generated within our studio. We're very fortunate to have a great team of creative minds that are always thinking of conjuring new concepts and stories and characters. And so this is kind of some of our first steps and first forays into that world. And we're exploring everything from graphic novels and art books, which we'll show you with Tank, to feature films, games, VR, AR experiences, a lot of great stuff to share. And so starting with one of the first features as part of a franchise that we're looking to develop, here's Dive. And I'll let Tyler speak a little bit to this.
Yeah, so we're uniquely equipped at ASC to be able to use everything you've just seen, to use it to create amazing worlds and characters. And so we thought one of the first things that we should do is really kind of get into what we do best. We're really good at scaring people, making great monsters and cool worlds. So why not do that all at the same time? So we turned our skill set in on ourselves, and we've come up with Dive. Sorry, there's some construction going on in the house. Dive is that, as you see here, it's a group of cave divers looking to go have some fun. They go into a cave, and it goes south pretty fast, and they have to try to get out of there and survive an ancient labyrinth and creatures. It's an absolute nightmare, but it's super entertaining. We've had some amazing work that we've been doing with this project. It's a part of a series of projects which are all inspired by nature. And this is our first real foray. We're utilizing a lot of Unreal engine tech to be able to do real-time monster creation and to do real-time world building. We're super excited to share with you our first sample of what that could look like. And I'll kind of pass it over to Aaron here to tell you a bit more about Dive and what we've created.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Yeah, Tyler and the team. Tyler's heading our IP and development at ASC. So he's together we've been creating some really cool stories. And so Dive is really, we follow these characters that was like kind of a more of a sports kind of a dream exploration that turns wild. So in here we actually create these weird creatures, these weird environments, and an ancient civilization that may have been down there underwater. So what we've been doing in Unreal is trying to figure out, these designs show kind of a little bit of a glimpse of some of the characters and some of the stuff that they're having to deal with. Then we actually create a trailer that we're going to show here next, and it's basically a glimpse into the world that under this cave and some of the creatures. And so what we've done in Unreal is stuff that we've never been able to do before. And it's create like our world and our characters and creatures within a small period of time and a small crew. Now what we're doing is actually going and figuring out, because of that process, is basically the things that we feel that is a strong part of our abilities is to basically make the movie before you go shoot the movie. And so using Unreal will be like, it's known as previs, but we'll take it a little bit further where we use some of the assets and the elements to be the final VFX in the end. So I think next is the trailer, correct?
Yeah, and this is going to be a world premiere for you guys. So this is the first time we're showing it to an audience, and
seeing this trailer for the first time. So hope you enjoy it and check it out.
Here we go.
So Tyler, you just want to go past since we're doing time. I guess. Sorry, Chase.
So there you go.
There you have it.
First look at a Dive teaser. And as mentioned, completely conceptualized, developed, in-house at the studio. before we move on to the next project, Tyler, did you want to speak to, we mentioned this is part of an anthology, if you will,
Yeah.
kind of the overall concept, you know, different worlds that we're looking to explore from here on?
Yeah. So, you know, we wanted to have we want to create content and exist everywhere possible. I think can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know,
Is it a
hey,
big
it's live,
deal?
a live stream.
Live.
Yeah. Good
So,
luck.
so we want to create it as wherever possible. You know, we've got our art books coming out, which takes care of our big sci-fi properties, which we'll be sharing an update on shortly here in this presentation. We also then have, you know, Dive is the first of a series of films that are all inspired by nature. They're short, they're like, you know, pretty just great horror films that all take advantage of the environment and taking a look at how you can use the environment in its most beautiful and its most hostile, and how you can, you know, put characters in situations that are both, you know, horrifying, but also, you know, a real test of their character and who they are. So the whole goal is to create these visceral, super entertaining experiences that you can watch over and over again, and watch them with your friends and just have a good time, you know, getting a scare, getting a laugh, and just being completely, you know, just enthralled with just amazing visuals. That's kind of been our main goal, is to just make the most like impactful, visually compelling and amazing, entertaining movies as we possibly can.
Yeah, and luckily we have, you know, a great talented crew and team to create this. And like I said, this is it's kind of the times right now that we're in. It's, you know, this interesting thing that we're all going through, but it's also it's created an aspect of like the technology has grown in a way that has never been this accessible and to creating feature films.
Exactly.
So we're really excited about that. And then we're, you know, like we said, we're going to talk about some of our other properties that we're going to be showing here, which is this is a book, an illustrated book that's coming out in February called Tank, and it's kind of like an Iron Giant. It's a kind of a boy and his robot, and it has aliens, time travel, and robots. It's like the coolest smash up ever.
All the goodies.
Yeah,
Got everything you need.
Yeah. And this Tank was originally, originally conceived and actually shot a proof of concept for this a little over a year or so ago, maybe a couple years now. And we're able to release it on a really great platform called Dust, which is kind of a sci-fi short form platform. You can see it on Facebook, watch Dust. They got a website and everything. And they were great partners. They debuted the teaser, and it had such incredible response. It kind of inspired us to continue to develop the story, develop the world. And we also ended up creating a masterclass from it as well, which we'll share with you towards the end. This is basically, originally it was, we did it in our studio workshop with about 30 participants and students for the first time around. And over the course of 2 days, really went through using this property to break down every single element and step of our sketch to screen process, from, you know, design to rigging, animation, compositing, lighting, you name it. So pretty comprehensive deep dive. And once again, you know, what started with an idea and an image spawned a proof of concept, spawned an online education masterclass, and is now kind of going to be presented in its first kind of physical format, which is kind of an art book graphic novel hybrid that we'll be releasing early next year. But there's going to be a Kickstarter campaign coming up a little bit later this year. So if you guys are interested in seeing more or getting some updates on it, we encourage you to visit on our website and the original section, as well as follow on social media. We'll be providing some updates as well, and we'd love to be able to have you guys part of this journey as we start to unveil some of the initial artwork and scenes that we're developing at this moment for this book that is going to be coming out early next year. So I'm going to go through some of those art pieces as well. And as you can see here, you know, we took our team through each phase of concept design, 3D modeling, et cetera, to really give fellow artists and filmmakers and storytellers a glimpse of how to bring their own concepts and characters and worlds to life.
Yeah, this shows a little bit of the process that we talked about before, sketch to screen, but we're applying it with our own IP. And like Chase said, as we use this one project, we create a masterclass showing the entire process of our sketch to screen, and it, like we just mentioned too, it's become a book that's going to be published in February. That's basically going to be the entire story. And now we did this test with this kid and this robot early on, just as a proof of concept. And like I said, it's grown into various IPs and different properties. And it's the next thing that it's going to be coming up soon that we're actually going to be showcasing too. That's not going to be here. It'll be, just keep an eye on it, as we're doing an animatic series with this character. It's going to be done entirely in Unreal. So it's just something to look forward to. So just keep an eye as you go. But these are images like this. This is basically, this particular sequence here is kind of when Max is the boy, meets Tank for the first time. He's kind of just been discarded in this environment. And Max falls into this as he's been chased. And then they become kind of friends in this process, and he's kind of a protector of Max through the story. This shows a little bit of the time travel aspect. So we start off in the future. What's the date exactly, Tyler? Like 2020?
Yeah, we start in 2075, and then they go back to 1914, and once they get back there, it's kind of it kind of fit. It was like one of the most consequential wars ever fought. It was the first time a tank was actually used, so it just kind of fit thematically, and it was such a turning point in just global power, global culture, everything, that this is a point in time where our villain is trying to really impact the future of humanity. So right now, the history is not what it is in the history books in our story here. It's been changed.
Yeah, based on some alien technology, and so that's kind of why we have aliens, we have time travel, and so this is an image of our villain, and he's been kind of slowly turning into the alien race that actually he's been influenced by. So this is him in 1914, creating a time travel device back then.
Dr. Lawrence, that's our guy.
Yeah, as you can see, I mean, our development process is a little different than typical. We start with images. We start with concepts and ideas, and it often is times is a previous design that Aaron or maybe Stefan or one of our artists had just kind of done out of passion, and we kind of reverse engineer that to develop a story around it. So it's a really fun and immersive and collaborative way to develop concept and IP, having really compelling key scenes and images, whereas typically they'd be inspired by a script or the director, allowing these to help tell the narrative. And what we're trying to do is pack as much story in the imagery as possible. And how can we tell that story with as little exposition or dialogue? And hopefully, these are just sort of early iterations, but hopefully getting that across to the audience.
Yeah, so these are just other work in progress concepts that's going to be in the book and in the story.
Yeah. One of the inspirations for us, really brilliant concept designer who developed a similar art book, Electric State, was recently turned into an Amazon series called Into the Void, or Into the Loop rather. And so again, a really great testament to designers and storytellers visually, how something can really inspire a much broader story, even in an entire series.
I'd like to point out about Tank is that the reason we went forward with turning into a narrative art book and kind of really stepped into the publishing space was as a direct answer to fan response. The response, just even in just the comment sections online, with those that saw the trailer that we released last year, a little over a year ago, it was just so overwhelming that we just had to, we had to do something. We're like, how can we get this out there in the world? How can we, you know, feed the desire to see more Tank? And so we're super excited to be able to partner with 3D Total. This is one of their first narrative art books that they're getting into. So we're kind of defining a bit of a new genre, which is fantastic. We're working with two amazing writers on this who've helped really shape the world. Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. They've been great collaborators, and we're super excited to be working with them on this. Tank will be a series. We're certainly looking to make a series of books out of it. Working on an animated short to kind of prove it out, to see how it could be made into you know, a potential animated TV series, as Aaron pointed out. So there's a lot more Tank on its way, and we can't wait to continue to share more of it as it grows.
Awesome. And without further ado, here's a glimpse of the initial teaser, proof of concept for Tank. All right, there we go. And as we mentioned, you can check more out on our website. You can enter your email. We'll send you some newsletters and updates. We won't spam you, I promise, on when the Kickstarter is coming out. We love your support. And once again, you know, we'll have some pretty cool, you know, plus ups for some of the donors, you know, whether it's signed copies, original art prints, maybe even a little miniature 3D print of Tank, who knows, if you're lucky. But we'd love to share it with you guys, and of course appreciate the support. This is just another little quick glimpse at our online masterclass. You can learn more at ascmasterclass.com, and issuing a special promo for you all watching from the Comic-Con land virtual world. And last but not least, once again, just a reminder, follow us on social, visit our website. We truly appreciate you guys tuning in today. It's an honor and a pleasure for us to be part of Comic-Con yet again, even from home. But hoping you all stay safe, stay sane, keep creating, keep designing, and I'll let the team have a final sign off.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody. It's been a pleasure, and again, like Chase said, you know, keep an eye on our website, keep an eye on these projects. A lot of updates are going to be coming up, and you know, everybody stay safe and positive. And,
yeah, and yeah, definitely make sure to check out Dive. We're gonna be posting it on our website soon, so please check it out there. There's gonna be way more of that kind of content coming up as the world and ASC are more specifically moving into the world of Unreal. Really excited about that, and everything that you saw in the Dive trailer is directly out of Unreal Engine. No compositing. Straight out captures. So yeah, we're really excited about how far that you can push it now, and we're really excited to do even more shorts and have those for you soon.
Fantastic! Thanks so much. Thanks for listening and hanging out with us today. We look forward to sharing everything we have, and can't wait to get more out there for you.
All right, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody.